Okay, tell us your name.
Lana, my name's Lana.
Is this a story about you or
my son?
Yes, you told me that already.
Yeah.
Your son. Okay.
So
how many children do you have?
Just him at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
he's 7 now. So he's come up to 7 in September.
did you when you were pregnant with him? Did you think anything about?
I didn't think anything. I was 20. So it was a very unexpected pregnancy. Me and my partner had been together for a long, early teens, but it wasn't anything planned at all. But when it came round to him having his vaccinations, I literally didn't even, I thought it was the best thing. I was one of those parents that was right in there on that date at 8 weeks, 12 weeks, 16 weeks, thinking I was doing the best thing.
And how was he developing then?
He was actually developing really well. We never had any issues with his health really or anything in that first year. The main issue happened, he was meant to receive his BCG at 1 week old.
Wait.
A BCG?
At 1 week old?
Yeah. And
when did that start happening? Yeah.
I think they do it depending on what area, what boroughs you live in.
Toby had it 1 hour old.
Okay, see. So they said that to us at a week old, and that was the one thing, because I knew I didn't have it till I was 14. So that was my only knowledge on vaccinations was when I had that specific one. So I really was like, it didn't sit well with me at all. So I just literally kept cancelling the appointments when they would send them.
BCG, guys, is TB.
Yeah.
Tuberculosis.
So when it came around, he had his other one. So he had his 8 weeks, 12 weeks, 16 week vaccination. We didn't have any issues, never noticed anything. And then I got a call when he was about 8 months old, and they said to me I'd kept cancelling his BCG appointments and that they would have to ring social services because I was not doing what I should be doing. They said that I had a month to make an appointment, otherwise they would be referring.
What area were you?
We were in Brent, so literally just down the road from here. We live just literally very close.
Do you think it's because you were so young?
I think it was they used that as an advantage, and the fact they said, in the borough there's outbreaks of it because we have people coming in and they used lots of things because of the social services issue, and I didn't really have much knowledge on them other than certain things I'd heard previously, I suppose. That I was actually really shocked that they could even tell me that. So then I rushed and booked his appointment. He had that I managed to get a little bit of leeway, and he had it about 10 months old, but he was very lethargic that day. And they actually told me afterwards that they couldn't have done that. So I sat there afterwards, practically in tears, thinking I'd just been pushed into this. And it was something that really, because I hadn't had it till I was 14, I already had that, why would they give the same thing to him when I was a teenager? And then, so he was 10 months old then, and then he had his 1 year birthday, everything was fine. He had that day of being lethargic, but other than that, we didn't notice anything else.
Guys, if you're getting confused, BCG is an actual vaccine.
Yeah.
It's a TB, tuberculosis vaccine. It's not a test, it's a proper
vaccination.
Vaccine.
Yeah.
Get back into my British accent now.
He had his first birthday, that was all perfect. He had a 1 year checkup. He was actually seen as advanced because he was running around. They couldn't believe how tiny he was, and he had so many words, and they were really amazed about how well he was doing. And so that was literally a week after his birthday. And then he had his vaccine appointment for his MMR, PCV, Hib, Menc. So all of those.
So what age is he then?
13 months. They have the MMR, PCV with the PCV separate and then Hib Menc. So he had the MMR, Hib Menc and PCV. But I actually thought, because in the red book, I thought, we're late because it had 12 months.
Wait, what's PCV again?
Pneumococcal conjunctive. It's PCV, so Prevnar 13.
That's Prevnar 13.
Yeah, so he had that one.
That would kill my boy.
Yeah, Prevnar 13 he had. That alongside the MMR and alongside the Hib Menc. The thing is on that appointment I thought he was having one. So when I went in and they were like, he's having 3, I was a bit, and I always asked sort of about side effects, and they'd always just said, oh, just a rash or a temperature, and just to give him Calpol. Worst thing you could do. And so he had all of those. He screamed. I didn't, do you know, the thing was, is I didn't want him to actually have them, and I had this awful feeling in my gut. So much so that I kept saying, are you sure this is okay for him to have these? Are you sure? And it was the first year they'd actually combined giving all of those 3 together. They just had changed the schedule that year so that they'd have them all in one appointment. So when they were obviously as soon as I think they felt that I had my back up a little bit, so then they were like, well, if he doesn't have them, he could catch this and he could die. It's very serious. You know, very seriously talking to me, and I think with my age as well, they really played the death on me. So I was then fine, okay, we've got to do it, I'll go ahead, and did it. And he screamed, and it was a scream that I'd never heard him scream before. We went home. She said, oh, just give him Calpol as soon as you get home. So we went home, I gave him Calpol as soon as we got home. He still had a temperature. It got very high that night, so much so he screamed through the whole night. I called the doctors the next day. They told me that it's fine, he's probably just having a temperature from the vaccines, and to alternate Calpol and kids' Nurofen, baby Nurofen.
Okay, so just so you know, Calpol's the same as Tylenol.
Yeah, and then Nurofen is ibuprofen. So we were told then to alternate that. So I was very hesitant, and we kind of did, but spread it across the time. The week after, I think that's when we started to get chronic diarrhea, like, you know, chronic, up his back 10 times a day. He'd wake up in the morning, it would be all the way up his neck. And during that time as well, we'd also seen lots of other changes in him. So he was still saying words, but just not as often. So usually he'd be like, Mama, in the morning, and, you know, all through the day, whereas this, it just really minimised. And then also with his eye contact and things like that. That was in the first week. So those things had really just started, and I was very aware of it and very concerned. So we rang the doctors back again, and they said, they actually said to me, oh, it's probably just toddler diarrhea, and not to worry about it at all, and to come back in with him if it continued. I knew that there was something wrong with him. He'd also, the other thing I just completely forgot to mention was after those vaccines, he stopped walking the same. So he would walk and trip with every other step, and then it got worse over weeks. So then it turned to him hardly being able to walk without holding onto furniture, even though he'd actually started walking from 11 months old. So it was really a big, you know, I could see there was something wrong. I could see in his face that he was not well. This continued. I continued going back to the doctors. So that was to our GP. They just kept telling me, oh, just to keep an eye on him, and it's winter, so he's going to get sick. Because what happened was all over Christmas, he was completely ill. So he had the vaccines in October, so the end of October, and all from then he was just sick. He had lymph nodes swelled up in his neck and all behind his ears. They told me that was fine, and that was just because he had a viral infection. And then going on I think it was by February, because I'd been to the doctor so many times and they really weren't listening to me. So I went to see a different doctor, and this time it was a guy, and he completely dismissed and told me that he will be fine and to wait until he's 2. And I was getting quite frustrated because I really felt I hadn't been listened to anyway up until that point, and they definitely weren't hearing that it wasn't the fact of my son not learning, it was that he was losing everything. And they just completely tried to fob me off, really. So then I changed and made an appointment with a different doctor. She didn't listen initially. She kept telling me, I can assure you it's not the vaccines. We know it's not the vaccines.
And she showed us?
She could assure me.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, and I kept saying to her, well, I know my child, and look, I actually got them to give me his medical history, his whole health history, so I could lay it out in front of her and show her, look, he was healthy and he had the vaccines. And they could see when I called, and there was things in there that they didn't tell me on the phone, but they'd written could be his MMR vaccine. Had MMR vaccine 5 days ago. And things like that they had written that they didn't tell me that over the phone when I was calling up. So yeah, that continued. We've had this, the lady, the GP we saw, she eventually began to listen to what I was saying to her. She began to take it quite seriously. Not seriously enough, I wouldn't say, because she referred him to the necessary people, which took so long. By the time my son had a speech therapy assessment, he'd lost everything, like every word he had was gone. So it was not, I don't know, it was just very, wait. That's what we told, and I was so fed up with waiting. He had the speech therapy assessment. Obviously there wasn't much of an assessment to be done. They still didn't want to diagnose him with anything. They refused, and I said, I think it was more so because I knew it was the vaccines, and I would go in there and I'd say, this is what the vaccines did to my son. And he wasn't like this before. He was completely fine and healthy.
So how's your boy today?
He's doing well. He's still non-verbal, which is a huge struggle. It's a huge struggle that I think as a mum, when you know your baby was babbling and talking and so happy and healthy and vibrant, to still be struggling now, years on, it's heartbreaking for him, and he gets so frustrated not being able to communicate. But other than that, he's doing well, as in he has made huge progress through getting the right things in place for him, and obviously not going through the mainstream way of doing things, and they haven't helped at all. We're still waiting for an EEG to see if my son had seizures, because that was my concern, that he was having absent seizures. They refused to do it. He's been under the neuro team for 2.5 years, and all they actually did was refer him to Great Ormond Street, and I got interrogated about the tetanus vaccine and didn't do a single thing. And then in the letter they sent back to us, I shouldn't really say it, but I'm actually at the point where when they want to try and then make you as a parent look negligent, because they wrote a letter then saying back that there was not much point in looking into and having an EEG performed, as mum would refuse medication and treatment. So they really tried to, and I knew at that appointment, I knew that was what I would end up getting, because they wouldn't drop the vaccine thing, even though I was there about possible seizures. But he's doing well. He's made significant progress through travelling to the US and doing other therapies. I homeschool him, so he's at home. We run a home.
Where did you go in the US?
We went to Sunrise Option Institute. It's in Massachusetts.
You know what you need to do? Next time you can afford to go to the US, you need to go to Autism One conference.
That's what we've been
that is the most educational
desperate to get there.
You need to go.
Yeah, we've been wanting to go for a long time. We're actually currently saving and fundraising to get my son to see a doctor in the US, to have the necessary tests run that we can't get here, because here, although we have alternative practitioners, there's only so far they can test, and we need EEGs and we need all these other things that doctors here just aren't willing to do. So that's really awesome.
Listen, thank you so much for telling the story.
No, I had to. I feel like I knew if I didn't.
We need to write his names down. Pasco, keep a list of all these names, because we can write them on the bus when we go back. What's his name again?
You've got Jai's name, yeah.
Oh, he's on there,
yeah, because I sent it in his picture
to you.
to you.
That's good, because this is a worldwide issue. Yeah. They love you. Are you a Periscope person?
No, I'm not. On Facebook, though.
We are guys.
Yeah.
Okay, cool, because you need to go on Periscope because they love you.